October 13th, 1925. I arrived in Innsmouth today, and it's as desolate as the rumor suggested. The townsfolk are peculiar, pale skin, odd features, and an almost fish-like quality to their eyes. They all seem to share a strange, solemn expression, their gazes lingering a bit too long whenever I pass. The innkeeper, a quiet man with a thin-lipped mouth and bulging eyes, barely spoke a word as he handed me the key to my room. He watched me with an odd intensity, as though assessing whether I belonged here. It's probably just the usual distrust of outsiders in small insular towns. I've come to investigate local legends about Innsmouth's ties to the sea, about strange rituals and ancient gods. I expect some resistance, but I'm not deterred. Tomorrow, I'll begin my research. October 14th, 1925. Last night, I dreamt of sinking, descending slowly into a dark, endless ocean. Shapes shifted around me, too murky to make out, and there was an overwhelming sense of being watched. When I woke, I noticed a faint rash on my arm, rough to the touch, likely a reaction to the dampness of this place. The townspeople continue to watch me in silence. When I asked an old man at the shore if there were any historical sites nearby, he muttered something unintelligible and walked away, shaking his head. I get the feeling that they don't appreciate my curiosity. It's frustrating. I came here for answers, but Innsmouth seems determined to keep its secrets. Still, I'm not giving up. I'll return to the shore tomorrow and see if I can find anything of interest on my own. October 15th, 1925. Today, a small child approached me by the shore. She handed me a stone with a strange symbol carved into it, a crude, trident-like mark. When I tried to question her, she just stared at me with wide, unblinking eyes before slipping away into the mist. I could dismiss it as local superstition, but there's something unsettling about the way these people treat me, as though they know something I don't. The mark on my arm has spread slightly, rough and discolored. I showed it to the innkeeper, hoping he might offer some insight, but he only glanced at it briefly, almost dismissively. He just smiled, disturbingly I might add, before shuffling away. I'm beginning to feel the weight of this town's isolation. There's a shared understanding here, a bond that I'm clearly not part of. The more I press, the more they seem to close ranks, guarding whatever secrets they hold. But I'm getting closer. I can feel it. October 16th, 1925. The townspeople's behavior has grown stranger. They no longer avoid me, but rather watch me with a silent acceptance. Today, as I passed through one of the narrow cobblestone streets, an older woman approached me. She took my hand firmly, her grip surprisingly strong for someone of her age. She held my gaze for a long, unsettling moment, her pale, unblinking eyes reflecting something I couldn't quite place. Then, in a low, almost reverent whisper, she said, "Alcahar awaits you, Doctor," before quickly releasing my hand and vanishing into the fog-laden streets. The name Alcahar lingers in my mind, though I've no idea what it could mean. It feels ancient, weighty, yet oddly familiar in a way I can't explain. I tried to find the woman again, retracing my steps through the winding streets, but it was as if she had disappeared entirely. I even asked a few other townsfolk about Alcahar, hoping for some clue, but each one merely smiled at me, a knowing silent smile, before turning away without a word. This town seems to operate under some unspoken code, one that I am beginning to sense without fully understanding. My skin continues to change, slightly rougher, almost textured now. It's subtle enough to dismiss as irritation from the salty air, though I can't shake the feeling that something deeper is at work. Tonight I walked along the shore, where I found a cave partially hidden by rocks and seaweed. Inside, the walls were etched with symbols similar to the one on the stone the child gave me. The symbols seemed to hum faintly, and for a moment I thought I heard whispers coming from the depths of the cave. Rationally, I know it's probably just the echo of the waves, but the effect is deeply unsettling. I don't feel myself. I feel strange, almost like I'm outside of my own body. These people, this town, something isn't right. October 17th, 1925. I woke up feeling strangely disconnected from myself, as if part of me had been left behind in that cave. The mark on my arm has spread further, and my skin feels different. It's almost as if it's adapting, hardening in response to something. I can't explain it, and the townsfolk are of no help. They simply nod at me now, as though I'm finally being accepted by them. One man, a shopkeeper, glanced at my arm as I walked past his store and said, "I wouldn't worry about that." I tried questioning him more on it, but again he stormed off. I have to wonder if this is some elaborate joke, a form of hazing for the outsider who dared to come asking questions. But there's a part of me that isn't laughing, a part of me that feels drawn to the water in a way I can't explain. This place is starting to affect me in ways I hadn't anticipated. I thought I came here for answers, but it feels more like I'm being swallowed up by something beyond my understanding. October 17th, 1925. I couldn't sleep tonight. There was something in the air, an energy that felt both electric and heavy, as though the very atmosphere had thickened. I kept hearing faint, rhythmic sounds through my open window, like chanting, though muffled by the wind. Against my better judgment, I decided to investigate. I slipped out of the inn and made my way toward the beach, following the sound through the empty streets. The town was deserted, eerily quiet, except for the faint hum of voices drifting on the sea breeze. When I reached the edge of the shore, I crouched behind a weathered wooden fence, concealed in the shadows, and looked out over the dark expanse of sand. There they were, the townspeople, gathered in a rough circle on the shore, illuminated only by the pale glow of the moon. Their faces were tilted upward, eyes wide and glassy, as if in a trance. They murmured words I couldn't understand, their voices low and guttural, blending with the sound of the waves crashing against the rocks. At the center of their circle lay something large and dark, covered in seaweed and glistening with the wetness of the ocean. As the chanting grew louder, they raised their arms in unison, their voices swelling into a deep rhythmic hum that seemed to resonate with the earth itself. The ocean responded, waves surging forward as if drawn by an invisible force, crashing closer to their feet, almost reverent. I squinted, straining to see what they were gathered around, and in that moment I made out a shape, a twisted, unnatural mass of tangled limbs and rough, scaled skin, something not meant to be seen by human eyes. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I realized it wasn't simply a ritual. It was a communion, an offering to something beyond comprehension, something lurking beneath the waves. I must have moved or made a sound because all at once every head turned toward me. The chanting ceased, leaving only the roar of the waves as they stared, unblinking, directly at my hiding spot behind the fence. Their eyes seemed to gleam in the moonlight, reflecting a knowledge I could not grasp. I felt pinned under their gaze, frozen with a terror I hadn't known until that moment. Whatever I witnessed tonight was not meant for outsiders. I fear I've crossed a line. I need to leave in the morning. Leave this forsaken place. October 18th, 1925. I tried to leave today. As I made my way toward the town's main road, I noticed several men standing near the edge, almost as if they were expecting me. They watched without expression, subtly blocking the path. When I asked if I could proceed on my way, one of them shrugged and said, "There's no need to go anywhere, Dr. Moreau. You're already where you belong." I returned to the inn, shaken. It feels as if I'm being held here against my will, but I can't make sense of it. As I was about to leave, a strange lethargy overtook me, and I found myself staring out the window toward the ocean instead, mesmerized by the dark, shifting waves. It was a strange feeling, as though a part of me wanted to stay. I can't trust even myself now. This place is worse than I imagined. Tonight, I'll attempt to leave by another route. There's a narrow path through the woods behind the town that, according to a map I found, should lead to a neighboring village. I'll wait until after dark and make my way there quietly. I can't stay here any longer. October 19th, 1925. I managed to slip out of the inn just past midnight, moving through the woods as silently as I could. The path was narrow and winding, barely visible in the dim moonlight, but I pressed on, the branches clawing at my clothes, tearing at my skin. Every so often I would hear rustling behind me, soft, deliberate steps that would stop whenever I paused to listen. I haven't seen them directly, but I know they're there. I can feel their presence, just out of sight, watching and waiting. It wasn't until I glanced over my shoulder at a break in the trees that I saw them. A group of dark, shifting figures, moving as one through the fog. I couldn't make out faces, only shapes. But they were close. Too close. My heart shot into my throat, and I bolted deeper into the woods, weaving through the trees as fast as my legs would carry me. Now, I'm crouched behind a tree, catching my breath, trying to quiet the sound of my pounding heart. I'm writing this as quickly and quietly as I can while I wait. I think I've lost them, but I can't be sure. Every sound, a snapping twig, a rustle of leaves, sends fresh waves of panic through me. I need to stay hidden, at least until I'm certain they've fallen behind. There's an opening ahead, a faint glow filtering through the trees. It could be the way out. It has to be. I'm so close. Just a bit farther, and I might be free of this place. Free from whatever has taken hold of Innsmouth and its people. I can make it. I just need to keep moving. I'm going to. This journal was discovered deep in the woods near the Massachusetts coastline in 1931 by a group of hikers. Its contents were later turned over to authorities, who launched an investigation into the disappearance of Dr. Alistair Moreau. Following the journal's account, investigators searched for the town of Innsmouth described within its pages. What they found was baffling. The town appeared to be completely abandoned, its buildings weathered and crumbling, as though no one had lived there for decades. And yet, in the lodge where Dr. Moreau claimed to have stayed, his belongings were discovered in a room, dusty, untouched, eerily preserved, as though he had vanished overnight. Despite exhaustive efforts, Dr. Alistair Moreau's whereabouts remain unknown. His journal has fueled numerous theories, with some believing his accounts of Innsmouth's strange rituals and transformations were true. The town's infamy for its unsettling atmosphere only adds to the speculation. However, investigators have offered more pragmatic explanations, citing the possibility of foul play, or that Dr. Moreau suffered from psychological delusions brought on by isolation and stress. Whatever the truth, Dr. Alistair Moreau has never been seen again.